So Nick Fuentes is essentially a two-man operation. Rumble Nick energizes his core fans by attacking minorities, attacking women, and attacking America. And then Podcast Nick runs interference with the wider media, framing his sincerely racist rants as out-of-context clips.
My beloved ones, welcome back to the Nissim Black Show. Always my honor, my pleasure to serve all of you. Coleman Hughes, that guy is just... he's an amazing guy. He's an amazing guy. And personally, I mean, one of my first interviews way back when I actually began podcasting, I think maybe it was in my first or my second season, I interviewed him and we had a great conversation. We didn't go as deep into politics as I would have wanted. I was working with a network that was amazing, but they kind of wanted to keep things a little bit more in the center at the time, and I guess I was on board with it at that time, but I wasn't 100%. There was places I wanted to go, so I didn't get to say everything or ask him everything I wanted to ask him at that time. Just the polarization, everything was heavy and it was heated. So I'm probably gonna have to invite him back on the show. Anyway, with that said, you talk about a voice of moral clarity. Now, this is coming from a guy who just quite honestly, unless anything has changed since the last time that he and I had a conversation, he was at least a professing atheist, right? So, it's sometimes it bothers me. What bothers me about it is the fact that he's atheist. Well, yeah, of course, I wish that he believed in God, obviously, but that's not what bothers me more than that is when people that profess and claim to believe in God that should have, that should have a better outlook when it comes to morals, that they are just like they are missing the ball. And these are all these nefarious characters, the Nicks, the Candaces, the Tuckers, the people that we're afraid to just keep saying their name because we may end up needing our mouths washed out with soap just from saying their name. Anyway, so I want to play this clip. I want to watch it with you. I'm going to react to it in real time. It's been going around a bit. I know that other people have covered it. I'd like to really watch it with you guys. Every once in a while, I get a longer clip, and I'm just like, I don't want to cut it up. I want to go through it with all of you. So here he is giving his take on Nick Fuentes, which I don't think nobody's done it more thorough than what he has yet. And I've only seen these little bits and pieces, so I'm going to give you guys a longer clip of it. We'll watch it together. We'll react in real time. But for me personally, I just don't know if anybody's been noticing because I've been having this issue. I would watch and see, and we've obviously covered Nick Fuentes on our channel before, but then he'll go on a PBD podcast or something. I'd be like, he's more human than what I thought. Or he'll go on a different podcast and just like, hold on, well, he's sort of like, or he's getting upset because we're calling him anti-Semitic, but he said the most anti-Semitic things since Hitler. So I'm trying to figure him out, but Coleman puts it all in one place for us to be able to see in real time how much this guy switches. And we may quite possibly be dealing with a split personality.
Legendary singer and actress Barbra Streisand once sued a photographer for putting a picture of her cliffside mansion on an obscure website, arguing that it threatened her privacy. Her actions backfired spectacularly. Before the lawsuit, only 6 people had downloaded the photo, but after the lawsuit, hundreds of thousands of people had seen it. The Streisand effect has since become a generic term for when an attempt at censorship achieves the opposite of its goal. If I were writing a glossary entry on the Streisand effect, I wouldn't put a picture of her next to it. I would put a picture of Nick Fuentes. Fuentes launched his career as a college freshman in 2017 with a barely watched show called America First. In Fuentes' telling, he was a mainstream Republican in high school. Then Donald Trump's rise radicalized him against immigration, and the experience of being ostracized by fellow Republicans for questioning Israel radicalized him against Jews as a whole. Whatever the truth of this origin story, it didn't take much for Fuentes to transform himself from a mainstream conservative into a lover of dictators, including communist ones, an across-the-board bigot, and a textbook anti-Semite.
I remember.
And what's good for that is, just before I let it keep going, is that one of the other reasons why I love this is because he's showing how these things started. Everything had a start, right? Now, Nick, like I said, he was a nobody before he became a nutbag anyway, so we don't really know. But the Candaces, other people, it started somewhere. People need to know that, they always ask, what came first, the chicken or the egg, right? which is a crazy question, almost a straw man argument. What came first? Was it the chicken or the egg? Like there was usually something that caused these people to become anti-Semitic, anti-Israel, anti-Jewish. Like there's usually something that starts. Just like most people. I mean, today we've become a people that's been, very much so distant from religiosity. I was going to say that usually, though, in times past, if a person was telling you they didn't believe in God or something like that, it was because something happened in their life, right? There's usually something that happens that messes up that relationship, something with some gatekeeper or something like that, that causes that person to start looking elsewhere, for either religion or lack thereof. So with Nick and with all these other people, it started somewhere. So I'm so happy that he put that there because everybody needs to know how come all of us, how did so and so switch up? How come they started hating Jews all of a sudden? Because it usually starts with something.
Because that's an important date to me.
Why?
And it's Joseph Stalin's birthday.
Oh.
I'm a fan.
You're a fan of Stalin's.
Mm-hmm. Always an admirer.
As he became more extreme, Fuentes began to experience what would become one of the most complete cancellations ever consummated in American culture. In his freshman year, he got harassed for wearing a MAGA hat on campus. After participating in the 2017 Unite the Right rally in Charlottesville, Virginia, his network dropped his show, and a deluge of death threats prompted him to drop out of Boston University. By early 2020, he had been banned from Twitch, Reddit, and YouTube. After he appeared at the January 6, 2021 riot, and there was no evidence that he actually entered the Capitol, Fuentes was banned from streaming on DLive, and his bank account was temporarily frozen by the Department of Justice as part of what it said was an investigation, though charges were never brought and his accounts were unfrozen months later. By the end of 2021, he had been placed on the TSA no-fly list, which is generally reserved for terrorists, as well as banned from Twitter, PayPal, Venmo, Patreon, Shopify, Stripe, Coinbase, and even Airbnb.
He is a verbal terrorist, by the way. I'm just saying, he's a terrorist with his words. For now, it's only his words.
Now, as a classical liberal, it's not hard for me to hold two thoughts in my head at once. The first is that Nick Fuentes is an American citizen with the right to free speech and should not be targeted by the authorities for his views. And while social media and payment platforms are well within their rights to drop him if he violates their terms of service, it seems to me that the ham-fisted attempt to erase him from public life only drew more attention to his ideas in the long run, just as the Streisand effect would predict. However, the second thought is just as crucial. Just because he got viciously canceled doesn't mean that people should listen to what he has to say now.
That is so true. I'm so happy he said it. Just because the guy has been, deplatformed from these platforms does not give him credibility. It's not like, oh, well, maybe we should be listening to what he has to say. Why are they trying to say? Maybe because what he says is actually crazy. Maybe because what he says is actually dangerous. Maybe he is inciting violence. Maybe he is insinuating things that should not be said. And so, there's this thing where let me go to the forbidden fruit, right? Let me go to this place where it's forbidden, that one thing that they don't want me to know. And where people, over time have taken joy in becoming rebels just for the sake of being rebels, right? So it must be true if they're trying to hide it. If there's gatekeepers who are blocking this message, then it must be true. And nothing could be further from the truth. The systems that are in place, yes, they will block out a lot of the truth, but they would do the same with a lot of the lies. And this is why people have to have God and be able to be able to discern truth. Wait, before you get back to the show, I just want to let you know that we have launched Nissim Black Store. All you have to do is go online, order yourself one of these amazing mugs, God is King, with a matching t-shirt. We have a whole plethora of different shirts that are all about representing God wherever you go. As believers in the one true God of Israel, it is our duty not to hide, not to back down, not to shy away from expressing our faith wherever it is that we go. If you want to go and walk righteously before your God with a nice t-shirt, with a nice sweater, with a mug that's reminding us constantly that God is here with us, go to nissimblack.store and make sure you get yourself some merch. It really helps support this channel and everything that we're doing and everything that we plan to do. And trust me, you don't want to miss it. I thank you all for all of your support. Okay, back to the show.
Nick Fuentes is a force for evil in American politics. He hates minorities, he hates women, and most important of all, he hates the version of America envisioned by the Founding Fathers and actually wants to replace it with a religious dictatorship. If conservatives are actually trying to conserve what is good in the American political tradition and prevent radical changes in direction, then they should recoil against Fuentes-ism with every atom in their bodies. The words racist and misogynist have been abused to the point of meaninglessness in American discourse over the past decade. Social media activists have cried wolf so many times that very few people now bother to listen. But the point of the boy who cried wolf parable is that eventually the wolf arrives, and when it does, nobody is as alarmed as they should be. Like Aesop's wolf, Nick Fuentes has indeed arrived. And just as in the fable, mainstream conservatives do not seem appropriately alarmed, as demonstrated by his recent friendly appearances on Tucker Carlson's show, as well as other popular podcasts like Dave Smith's Part of the Problem, the Red Scare podcast, and the PBD podcast. How has Fuentes achieved this remarkable infiltration into the culture? Well, it's all been made possible by the fact that he's successfully playing a double game, and the people giving him friendly interviews are enabling this. There's not one Nick Fuentes, there's two. There's the unfiltered Fuentes who rants directly to his followers on Rumble and can barely go 5 minutes without saying something heinous about Jews, blacks, Hispanics, or women.
They're always coming up with, no, it's not the Jews. No, it's not women. No, it's not blacks. It's actually really complicated. No, it isn't at all. Jews are running society. Women need to shut the fuck up. Blacks need to be imprisoned for the most part. And we would live in paradise. It's that simple.
This version of Nick Fuentes verbally abuses his followers in the way that an insult comic might do, and they love it. He doesn't act particularly religious, and he certainly isn't preachy. He's laughing and smiling the whole time, and his followers basically feel like they're hanging out with a crass but hilarious buddy, listening to him take the piss out of everybody, including them. Then there is the comparatively sane character that Nick Fuentes plays on the podcast circuit. This version of Nick Fuentes is a serious Catholic. He's clearly read lots of books. He's earnest. He doesn't joke or curse very much. His vision of the country has much more to do with preserving what he describes as a white suburban American way of life, think Little League baseball and hot dogs on the 4th of July, than with a hostile theocratic takeover of the federal government.
There is
And something is to also be said of this. I'll go back a little bit so we could catch the top of what he was saying. But there is something to be said. Also, another thing that I'm thinking as I'm watching this, not to disagree with Coleman at all. I think that there could be that there is some science behind it, but there's another alternative way of doing it, of thinking about this also. Sometimes people are really tough. Like this is the generation of the trolls, right? Where people will say and do things online, behind the camera, and all these other things that they would never say to somebody's face. And so I think that there's also that element, if that's not what it is, that, when you're down there in your basement and you have to be in front of, that camera and you're on your live feed and you know that everybody's going to soak all this stuff up and you can be completely comfortable. Nobody's there to really challenge you. Nobody's there in your face, as opposed to when you have to sit across from somebody, then a different you is going to come out because, that ain't the real you. The real you is who knows which one is, and in all intents and purposes, that doesn't even matter. But most people, I think, are more comfortable when they're not around people saying things, especially if they're saying wild things like Nick Fuentes. So I think that it could also be that. It's not that it's just a double. I think that sometimes is basic human decency comes out even a person that is a complete evil person like Nick Fuentes when they're in front of somebody as opposed to when they're by themselves.
Takeover of the federal government.
There is legitimate need to reassure people, and this is kind of what I've been doing on these podcasts, that we don't want to harm anybody. We don't want to kill anybody. We don't want to harm anybody. Right. We just want to put America first.
All of this brings up a few questions about Fuentes' sincerity. First, if his main fear is that the next generation of Americans won't be white enough, then why does he tell his followers that modern women are too annoying to bother with, and that married men are cucks?
You. With, all these people posting this like wife and husband content. It's so funny when my wife tells me to do stuff. I'm such a... Ugh. Imagine such a pathetic existence.
Shouldn't he be encouraging his followers to get along with women, marry, be fruitful, and multiply? The immigrants he's so worried about will certainly be doing just that. And more importantly, why do Rumble Nick and Podcast Nick seem to be two totally different people? While it's normal to come across a bit differently in different contexts, the two versions of Nick Fuentes seem to have different beliefs altogether. Podcast Nick, for example, insists that he's a patriotic American who just wants to put our country first. But Rumble Nick believes that America is an evil country, that, quote, Americanism is a heresy in the Catholic Church, that we must replace American democracy with a dictatorship and ultimately enforce what he calls Catholic Taliban rule in America.
That's why we need dictatorship. That's unironically why we need to get rid of all that. We need to take control of the media or take control of the government and force the people to believe what we believe, or force them to play by our rules and reshape the society.
Podcast Nick will tell you that he's celibate because, like a good Catholic, he is waiting until marriage. But Rumble Nick will make it crystal clear that his celibacy has nothing to do with religion and everything to do with the fact that he finds women to be, quote, annoying.
Guys get to a certain age and they're like, you know what? Women suck. Like, they're talking too much. They're not hot anymore. Like, you're fat, you're chubby, you're not as hot as you think you are. You talk too much, you're a...
Podcast Nick will argue that Christians cannot sanction racism and will approvingly cite Galatians 3:28. There is neither Jew nor Greek, there is neither bond nor free, there is neither male nor female, for ye are all one in Christ Jesus. Rumble Nick will viciously mock liberal Christians for citing this exact same Bible quote, and explain that he would rather Christians didn't read the Bible at all than use that specific passage against him.
This is where we get like liberals saying, but the Bible says neither Jew nor Greek, but the Bible says... This is where you get liberals using it against us.
Podcast Nick will roll his eyes at the accusation that he's a Nazi. Like the character Mark Ravenhead from Succession, he'll make you seem ridiculous for even asking the question. But Rumble Nick thinks that Hitler was, quote, really cool. He believes that probably only 200,000 or 300,000 Jews were killed by the Nazis, definitely not 6 million. And just last week he said, and not for the first time, that he finds the notion of Nazi gas chambers hard to believe.
And the thing is with the guy, and it's a lot of them, and we've talked about it before on this channel, that it's one of the craziest conditions of being an anti-Semite is that you don't believe you're an anti-Semite. You know, like none of these guys have really like taken it on. Maybe Cuckoo Candace, maybe she has taken it on and really accepted it and she's embraced it. Although I think she does it jokingly, but at least, okay, we'll take that as long as you'll take it. But for the most part, all these guys say, I'm not anti-Semitic. They can say everything in the book, right? They can say things just as bad as Hitler and not think they're anti-Semitic. I don't know what that is that causes them to do that, but he's got this same issue as well. Nick Fuentes holds that he's not an anti-Semite, and he also holds that he's not a racist.
People talk about, well, you know, what about the gas chambers? Well, to the extent that that's real, I find that hard to believe, but to the extent that's real, there have been atrocities committed and genocides committed in all times and all places. Let's acknowledge why Hitler casts the long shadow, because that confers a political benefit upon Jews. That's why.
Rumble Nick also argues that the Jews, quote, are responsible for every war in the world. It's not even debatable at this point, which could literally be an entry in Joseph Goebbels' diary. Podcast Nick frames his opposition to interracial marriage mainly as a personal preference that wouldn't affect anyone else. Rumble Nick believes that the Jim Crow system was actually superior to the integrated society that we have today. The logical implication being that we should bring it back.
I'm a new generation of white person. I'm not living around blacks. Sorry. You know, I want white kids, and I don't want my white kids bringing home black people to marry. It's racial for me. And call me racist. Oh, very Christian of you. I don't give a fuck.
Podcast Nick wants to reassure Tucker Carlson's audience, for instance, that, quote, we don't want to harm anybody. We don't want to kill anybody. We just want to put America first. But Rumble Nick routinely says things like,
we're in a holy war, and I will tell you this. Because we're willing to die in the holy war, we will make them die in the holy war. They have no future in America. The enemies of Christ have no future in this world.
lest there be any doubt about his violent intentions, Rumble Nick went on this unironic rant in January 2024, worth quoting at length.
There is an occult element at the high levels of society, and specifically among the Jews. So many of the people that are perpetrating the lies and the destruction on the country, they are evildoers. They are people that worship false gods. They are people that practice magic or rituals or whatever. And more than anything, those people need to be, when we take power, they need to be given the death penalty. Straight up. They must be absolutely annihilated when we take power. This is God's country. This is Jesus's country. This is not the domain of atheists or devil worshippers or perfidious Jews. This is Christ's country.
So Nick Fuentes is essentially a two-man operation.
And we've covered that before. All right, so we have definitely covered that Nick has said these things right now. And for him, that's not anti-Semitic and it's not violent. He doesn't want to hurt anybody. We say all the time, we're not trying to hurt anybody or anything like that. Okay.
Rumble Nick energizes his core fans by attacking minorities, attacking women, and attacking America. And then Podcast Nick runs interference with the wider media, framing his sincerely racist rants as out-of-context clips, confident that most of, say, Tucker Carlson's audience will never see his Rumble streams and thus will never realize that adding context usually makes his clips sound worse, not better. By playing this double game, Nick Fuentes ends up garnering sympathy from that wider audience while still keeping his Groyper base energized. To make an analogy, it's Rumble Nick who commits all the crimes in private, but it's Podcast Nick who shows up to the televised court date clean-shaven in a three-piece suit.
This is so powerful, you guys, so powerful. Pay attention here, because if you were like me trying to like figure out how come, you know, by the time you got the guy nailed, he like goes on another podcast and he sounds like halfway normal, and you're just like, am I not hearing what he actually said? And it's true. No, you heard what he said. You heard what he said. It's just that, like I said, I don't think he has the guts to say this type of stuff in an audience when there's actual people there and he knows people are listening to him, and they're not these groypers on his live feed.
I want to go out on a limb and suggest something that I can't prove. Nick Fuentes knows exactly what he's doing. He is consciously playing this double game as part of a long-term strategy to become popular enough to take the reins of power, at which point he plans to pivot towards the extreme and unpopular policies that he advocates daily on Rumble. I'm not pulling this out of thin air. Nick Fuentes has indicated that he has political ambitions. At the same time, he openly admits that his actual views are not popular enough to win a national election, and that his Groyper movement will never be big enough to take power by force. His implied plan, in other words, is to soft pedal his extreme views just enough to build a large following, large enough to actually win an election, and then remove the mask and begin implementing his extreme ideas at the first available opportunity. We've seen this playbook before. When the history buff Daryl Cooper first sprang into the mainstream on Tucker Carlson's show, where he claimed that Winston Churchill was the chief villain of the Second World War, it immediately touched off an argument about whether Cooper was really a Nazi sympathizer. His critics believe that he obviously was. I mean, why else would he be regurgitating long debunked Nazi talking points? But his defender claimed that he was just a good faith history buff given to occasional hyperbole. And they had a point. There was plenty of smoke, but no fire. Then, sure enough, the proof came. Mother Jones unearthed a comment that Cooper had allegedly made years earlier under an anonymous username on the white nationalist website Countercurrents. Quote, "A movement like this needs to operate at various levels, from the intellectual core that remains terrifying and offensive to the general population right up until the big shift, on up to covert supporters slipping occasional language and subversive information into conversation and normie media," Juggernaut Nihilism wrote.
Wow. 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 So we see it, man. This is crazy to me. Listen, if you want to see the whole entire clip, please go to Coleman. I will try to make sure that we get that link inside of the actual description down there. And let me know what you guys think about this. I really think Coleman's on to something. And I don't even disagree. Like if he's coming, like the way he came right there at the end, like it helps me to realize that, yeah, maybe this is really intentional. Like he's trying to be these two different personalities because he wants power. That he has not been shy about, in my opinion, of him wanting power, his political ambitions. And you know what? It's these type of people, unfortunately, that get there. And when they do, we've already seen what history has showed us. So, like I said, like, subscribe, share this video, share all these videos. Let's get out. Let's get this out into the algorithm. It really helps boost up all the videos. Make sure you also are buying merch. You know, we have the God is King cups, God is King shirts. Every good idea ain't a God idea. Make sure you go and get some merch. And on top of everything, ladies and gentlemen, remember to serve God, to live trying. I'm out. I don't have to tell you that in our fast-paced lives, we rarely stop to just breathe, to reconnect ourselves with Hashem and with our purpose. And that's why I'm really excited to tell you about Kavana, an incredible new app that helps bring mindfulness and Jewish spirituality into everyday life. It's filled with guided meditations, music, sleep stories, quick 1-minute pauses, and daily inspiration, all designed to help you live with more Kavana, with more intention, more presence, and more meaning. And right here on the Kavana app, I'll be releasing a brand new guided Hypocrisy series, a powerful journey into personal prayer and connection with the Creator. So go download the Kavana app today, sign up, and join me for the course.